Then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Now, notice the term for man. Adam is the Hebrew word. This is the same term we saw earlier back in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, where God says, let us make man in his image. So that term Adam is going to be used of both his name, but it's also what he is. He is man. And man is made of the dust from the Adama. It's a play on words. The Adam is made from the dust of Adama, the ground. So the word for ground is where you get the name of man from, because that connotates his origins. Next, I want you to see that God breathes into his nostrils the breath of life. Literally, the breath of lives. It's plural, but don't think of multiple lives like soul and spirit and things like that. Instead, it's that dual sort of plural sort of thing that's just impacting how wonderful it is. You almost can't put your finger on it. It's all over the person. He breathes into his nostrils the breath of lives. Almost calls to mind from our 21st century looking at this, maybe sort of an ancient CPR as God goes and blows into him, and now man becomes a living being. When it says that man becomes a living being, the Hebrew term there, literally a living soul, and yet we should not think in terms of, oh, now this is what sets man apart from the rest of creation, because that same phrase, living soul, was used back in chapter 1, verse 24, when God made living creatures after their kind, living souls, I guess we could translate that. And so it's used there, and it's also going to be used in Genesis chapter 2, verse 19, when we see that God forms every beast of the field and birds of the heavens and living things. And he's going to bring them to man to see what they're going to be called. And so this really orients man to as part of the rest of creation. He becomes a living being just like the other living beings that God had created. Now the Apostle Paul quotes this passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45, where he says, so it's also written, the first man, Adam, became a living soul. And then he goes on to say, the last Adam became a life-giving spirit. What he's doing, he's contrasting that first Adam that we saw in Genesis chapter 2 with the last Adam, that's Jesus. And he goes on to say, just as we have borne the image of the earthy, that is, we were born and there is about us that physical aspect that is like our ancestor Adam. In fact, we even call ourselves man. That's what the word Adam means. So also we will bear the image of the heavenly. We have another, I'm going to say this, another one who's our pattern, after who we are being formed, and we're going to be like Jesus. He is our last